Welcome to today's episode of Retail Is Podcast. I'm Kylie Ross-Seibert, joined by my co-host, Abby Shiano, and we have a
Hello.
very special guest today is Beth Parsons. Now, Beth has worked with Retail Alliance for decades, and we are very, very sad to say that today is her last day at Retail Alliance. So we wanted to take this opportunity and talk to her because she has such a rich history with the industry in retail, but with Retail Alliance as well. So wanted to take this opportunity and have a chat with Beth. So welcome to the show, Beth.
Thank you. This is going to be great.
And well, first of all, without showing your age, when did you start with Retail Alliance?
Well, I actually started in the summer of 1969. I was 14 years old. And I worked every summer and Christmas vacations up through the time I graduated from college.
Now, why did you, how come you're allowed to be in the business at that age?
At 14, you could get a business permit for children 14 and over. So that was, my mother took me down. My father told me, he said, "You're 14, you can work, you're going to work."
And what was
Go
the
get a
link?
permit.
Was there a link about your father?
Yes,
being
my
part of
father,
it?
yes, my father ran Retail Alliance. At the time, it was Retail Merchants Association. And yeah, he wanted all of us to learn the value of work at an early age. So we did.
So tell us a little bit about what it was like back then.
Um, to give you a brief history, in 1903, the chamber asked us to start an association just for retailers. Back then, it was for all businesses, and they realized there was a need for retailers in the community. So we started that, and then to help them get started and everything that they may need to be successful. In 1906, we started the credit bureau part, and we continued that probably until 1999, 2000, when Equifax acquired all of our files back. And then at that time, we went back to the original purpose of the association to help our retailers succeed in business.
Okay. So, I mean, back when it first started, even the whole time it was a credit bureau, what was your role and what was the role of Retail Merchant Association, that it was called at the time? What was the role there?
Well, it was to provide credit information to our members so that they could in turn give credit to the people, to the clients that came into their stores.
So they were local businesses, were they?
Right, right. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Because I know I heard especially like in downtown Norfolk, there used to be bigger department stores.
Yes, that was before before you had all the national chains. Everything was local. All your department stores were local. Almost all of your department stores locally had their own credit departments. So you would go in there. One of them in this area was Smith & Welton. So you would go into Smith & Welton's to their credit department, and you could buy things at their store on credit. And that's where we came in, because at the time there were hundreds of credit bureaus across the country, and we were just one that had all the credit information of the stores in our area.
And so we literally had files of people.
Yes, we did. We had lots of files. In fact, one of my first job was a company would call in, a store would call in and say, "I need the credit. What credit do you have on Beth Parsons?" And my job as a file clerk is they would give me a sheet of paper, and I would go in the files and I would pull out and see if there was a file. And the files looked like this. And so what would happen is we'd take them out, I'd give it to one of the people, and their job was to call the store back, the retail store back, and it would have all their information. It was really crazy. It had all their personal information, if they were married, how many kids they had, if they were in the newspaper, for anything. It was in there. It was a lot of personal stuff about them, whether they were an upstanding citizen of the community. We did that. I actually was a file clerk. That's what I started, and in the mailroom. But at night, you know, you had stacks of these credit files, and a lot of the military in the area, military men who needed extra money, they would come in and they would file these back every night.
Oh, really? That's interesting.
Yes.
So, I mean, everything changed then once the local department stores sort of, you know, died out,
That's
I
true.
suppose is what happened.
That's true. I can remember when MasterCard and Visa came out, and they had massive campaigns to get people to get a MasterCard and Visa. And at that time, also around that time, it used to be that credit file would be in my husband's name. I would be on the file, but I would not have one in my name. So this particular location, my father, went to Washington, and they spoke in front of Congress and for the need to split credit files. And at that time, then you came up with 2 credit files. I had to have my own, and my husband had to have his own. And it was a challenge at first because women didn't have credit. But eventually that started working out where they did. And this is where the MasterCard and Visas came in, where they started giving credit to women in their name only.
Was that in like the 70s or 80s? Like how far back?
This was in the 70s.
Okay.
That this pretty much started.
Wow.
I can remember coming in into our boardroom, a huge table, and just thousands of credit applications that MasterCard would have sent us information on these people. We would pull a credit report. We would, at the time, nothing was electronically like it is now. So we would get all the information and then send it back to them.
So you were getting requests from MasterCard and Visa to check someone's credit.
Right.
They didn't have the files.
No, we owned the files. This was the difference. We owned all the credit files in this area. And that was one of the differences than it is now, because since we owned them, we had the capability, if you had something on your credit file that was not true, or you thought maybe something was incorrect, then we could go in there and check it out. We could go to a store or the courthouse or whatever and check out what was on there that you were disputing, and then we could fix it that day. And that was one job I had, was that if something was fixed, it was okay, but if something was fixed that had been derogatory on a file, then a report was generated every day on those. And one of my jobs was to look at that, make sure that it was done in accordance to the law of how it was supposed to be done.
Wow. And even to this day, Beth, I still see people coming to our door thinking that we have their credit file. That's crazy.
Yes, and it is. In about 2001 when Equifax acquired our credit files. So at that time, we did not own them any longer. And because of the service we provided, people coming in, wanting to know what was on their file, they had been denied credit, or they're going to be buying a house, they wanted to know. Unfortunately, when that happened, we did not own them any longer, so we could not pull a credit report. Yeah. And because of that, like you said, we still get people coming to our door. I still get several phone calls a week with people wanting to know. And the fortunate thing is that I've been here so long and I knew about it, is I can at least counsel them in a way of what they need to do, mm-hmm. and where they can go and who to call. So.
Right. Which I believe is like with the 3 credit bureaus.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay. So once we sold all of sorry, what was that, Abby?
I was going to say, if you wanted to switch gears slightly from credit files, because I think we could talk about them forever.
Which is interesting. I'm
Since
sorry.
Since it's such like a big part of our history though, but I just did want to ask Beth. She's been here so long, and I was wondering if she could pick a favorite memory from here. And
Oh
I don't
my
know if that's even
goodness.
possible, but I know there's so many good ones.
I will say, now I don't know what was a favorite memory, but the most outstanding, I mean, the one I think made the biggest impact. The day we went from this and we automated.
Mm.
And that way people could call in. It went from people calling in to getting this information, to calling in to me sitting at a computer. Well, it was like it was something like a computer, and you give me the information and I type it in, it pulls up right then and I give it. And then it went from there to now, the people that pull credit, the businesses that pull credit, that extend credit, can now have the program in their office with the Equifax program pulling credit files.
So
It's just instantaneous. It's instantaneous, everything.
Yeah.
With the credit score.
I thought, Beth, you were going to say it was the day that I started at Retail Alliance.
Exactly what I thought.
Well, that was my second best.
That was what I was hoping would come out of her mouth, but then she brought up credit files again.
Yes. And we used to have, when we owned the files, we used to every night we would get a copy of all the credit files in the area.
Wow.
Every update that was ever done, we would get a copy of it just in case something happened. We would have
That's an electronic thing?
Credit information. It's too old. This is in the 80s.
Does that go into a computer?
Yes, it went into it. We had, in fact,
If for people who are listening to this, it's
something happened.
huge,
we had huge
donut.
computers behind us, but they sent this to us just in case if something ever happened and the information was lost. These came in and they would go into a vault, because of course credit reports you just can't keep them lying around.
It's over a foot in diameter.
It looks like something that can save you from drowning.
Yes, they were huge. They were huge. You have to realize back then there were these big computers behind in a room by themselves.
They look like servers. What we have as servers now.
Yeah. I can remember the very first, just changing something quickly here. But I can remember when I was in college and I had to do, with the computers, I had to do something over at ODU, and I had to submit in cards what I wanted them to run the program. That huge building and the engineering division over there, huge building that did that, I would come back a week later and get the results of what I submitted, is nowhere even near the capability of what's on this little laptop right here.
So that's really interesting. I think that's really interesting that you can speak on how technology has impacted every business in our own, because I was obviously raised in an age where it already existed, and so I never had to really adapt. Was it hard for you and everyone you worked with to kind of adapt to this new world where everything is just so instant, or was it easy?
I think because it happened gradually.
Mm-hmm.
It's not waking up one morning and all of a sudden you have to learn how to use a smartphone.
Right.
You started out with pay-as-you-go phones and little flip phones, and I can remember when we had a new computers for the first time, and it was DOS. That was interesting because you had to know DOS and the program. And when they came up with Windows, it was like, oh my gosh, isn't this what I got to do is push an icon, and it's really good. But it wasn't difficult, I don't think, because you learned it step by step.
And I think too, Beth, you're right. Like, I feel like the development although it was quick in terms of like time, but the development went in stages where it brought people along. Whereas I feel like, things change like this now. Like, you're getting a new iPhone every year, and you're getting, whereas the development of the actual technology, went. I remember electronic typewriters in my lifetime. And the big computers that that was only in the 80s and 90s.
Right, right. The good thing back then is that there's absolutely no record of what you did. There are no pictures. Nothing.
That is
I
true.
tell people now, and I know why. I tell people, I say, it's something to be said for back then where not every single thing is recorded. And my college friends, we had fun, and knowing, I mean, you just didn't, no one would make picture. I mean, you had to take a picture, then take it down the street to have it developed at a photo lab or something on the corner. So, it's changed. It's changed a lot. I think some of it for the good, some of it, I'm not so sure because, you're on your phone all the time.
Right.
But,
so going back to your development then, I mean, when we reverted back to being more of a merchants association after Equifax bought the credit files and stuff, what did you do? Because there must have been a whole load of people that no longer really had jobs.
There was. We went from 80 employees to at the very end till about 15 because we didn't have credit files anymore. Yeah. And because we didn't have credit files anymore, we didn't do mortgage credit reports. See, people would come to us if you had to buy a home, they would the companies would come to us to get a mortgage credit report. They didn't come to us anymore for that. See, now you can do a lot of that stuff online. So we lost that. At the time when this changed, I was actually going to court with another one of my coworkers here. And we would pick up the the judgments every day, bankruptcies and then we would upload them, so to speak, to Equifax so they could put them on the credit reports. And then after that, we went back to the association of taking care of our members like we did in 1903. And that's when I moved into the position I am now with the executive assistant.
And we probably should have mentioned that at the beginning, that you are the executive assistant to the CEO, but also you have a secondary role, which is just as important, if not more important, is the secretary to the board.
Right.
Did we always have a board of directors then?
The board of directors, I think we finally got a board of directors, and I have it. It was around that time. During that, yeah, it was around that time because I have people, they're amazed. I am the keeper of the minutes, and being that, I have every minute of every board meeting since 1903 in books. We bind them every year. We bind them. We have them. And people say, why would you need to keep that? Or why, what is the purpose? And our current CEO, Ray Mattis, when he took over as CEO, one of the things he did was go through a lot of those books to read some of the old minutes to see what the purpose of some of the things that they did. That they wanted to achieve. So that was to keep the history of our place, to keep that we're on the right track. Not saying that we don't. We do change. We do grow. We are growing. We grow all the time. We're changing and growing. So
right. So and going into retirement, what is your plan?
Oh yeah. Well, the first thing, I'm going to be spending some time with family. And I have 4 grandchildren in the area, and I really want to spend more time with them and let them spend time with me. And I also do travel. I'm a travel agent on the side. So, yeah, I'll be doing that. And
so if anyone needs like a travel agent.
Yeah, that's what I do.
I will say, like, you are a Disney expert.
Disney, and I also do the cruises, the carnivals, and the Royal Caribbeans and the Disneys. They've just gotten, all 3 of them have just gotten some new ships in. So and it's fun. Yeah. It's fun to help people to be able to go on maybe their dream vacation or just a fun vacation.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
The next thing you do is you'll delete all of our phone numbers, and so we can't contact you every day.
No, in fact, I asked one of my coworkers today, who's the keeper of all that, and when we update it, sends it out to all the employees. I said, now I need you to run me a copy of that, the latest one, so I'll have it. You know, just because I'm leaving doesn't mean I'm leaving. You know, leaving the building, I mean, I'm leaving all you guys. So I've made a lot of good friends. I really have. There's so many memories about what we have been through with our families, because we are so close. We do in this company. We take care of each other.
Yeah, for
We
sure.
really do. We really do. I remember when Kylie came. And she just became a U.S. citizen. When was this? Last year?
Yes.
2 months ago.
Yeah. She just became a U.S. citizen. And she says, I need somebody to write me a letter so I can stay in this country. I must have done something right, because you're still here.
That was a great letter. I don't know how true any of it was, but it was great.
Yeah. So, you know, we do. We take care of each other, and that's the lovely part of this organization.
Well, we're all going to miss your face around here.
And I'm going to miss everyone, you know. I mean, from the people I've been working with some people here for 30 years, and some of you for 10 years, and Miss Abby right there, about a year. So it's new people, new friends.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been a good journey.
Well,
I didn't get enough time. Dang it.
No. But as you say, you'll have a phone number.
I do. Just don't call too much.
I'll like all your stuff on Facebook, Beth.
Oh, I'm so glad. That means a lot, coming from a young person who's on social media a lot.
And on Instagram, not Facebook. So, that's a big deal.
I do what I can.
Yeah.
Is there anything else, Beth, that you wanted to, any other story, any highlights or anything you wanted to share?
I don't think so. I think that pretty much sums it up.
Beth, thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome.
And giving us some of your time on your last day.
Well, thank you.
All right. You've been listening to the Retail Is podcast. If you've enjoyed what you've heard, you can find more at retailalliance.com/retail-is-podcast, or search YouTube for Retail Alliance. I'm Abby Cheyano.
And I'm Kylie Ross-Seibert. Thanks for listening.
That was Beth Parsons. Thanks for listening.
Thanks, Beth.